Excellency, what are we doing tonight? We are bringing you some more games, but first, we're going to go over what happened in that last game where we had Glacial Galaxy, excuse me, versus God Squad, and we are just going to run down a couple things for that game for you. Me and Ravishing, we're watching it, taking tons of notes, and oh my gosh, we have so much to tell you guys. Go ahead, Ravishing. Just give us a little insight about
Okay,
what
you
we
know what?
figured out in that game.
We're gonna go over this like pretty solidly overall because there were a lot of things that we didn't want to cover, but three main things which we're gonna go ahead and run down with you, which I find are fundamental to like League of Legends here.
Mhm.
What did you say, Mitt?
So I think one of the first ththings that we need to talk about is, especially it's in solo queue, it matters even more in competitive, is going in with a game plan.
A
So
gameplay.
a game plan, exactly. So picking your champions, knowing what each role does on the map, and then playing it to execute on that game plan. I think the first example I'll just give is Karthus, right? When you pick a Karthus, your entire goal is to just power farm as much as you can, get to level 6, and start dropping ults on people. And the more you can get away with power farming, the more you're getting ahead over the enemy jungler.
Well, exactly. So speaking of the jungle too, what I believe the game plan coming in for Glacial was that especially how much top lane love that Volibear gave was that especially with the overall Nasus build they had with the Ghost, the Exhaust, and the Unsealed Spellbook, they likely wanted to make him into a split push farming god, right? Make sure to go ahead, get the Nasus ahead, and make him the side lane threat. But that unfortunately they couldn't close out on, considering early on that volley had two failed ganks.
Yeah, I mean, when a Volibear comes up top for a Nasus, all right, I understand. Okay, you take Exhaust, you take Ghost. You're trying to be a split push powerhouse. Yeah, I get it. Okay, but a Nasus early on is just trying to farm. He's not a split push champion. He's not going to be able to have any kill pressure on his opponent until he's got a good amount of stacks. So early on, those two failed ganks that Volibear goes up there and does, I don't know exactly what he was expecting to accomplish there, but there's no follow-up CC. There's no immense damage that a Nasus can bring to that gank. So there's just two wasted ganks. So Volibear would have been much better spending his time, and this is going back to the game plan again, just maybe messing with the Karthus, getting priority mid with the Morgana and contesting those scuttlers. Just using his time more efficiently as a jungler. As a jungler, time is your most efficient resource because you only have a window that's your valuable, and that's about the first 15 minutes of the game. You need to make those first 15 minutes really count.
Definitely, you do. And speaking of resources, that which lanes did not get, like one lane which I find was really heavy focused on was that bot lane here, man. Considering how much time that Karthus spent bot and how much time Volibear did not spend bot, especially early on, as we mentioned, he spent so much time bot. But with that bot lane though, that Varus was able to get very far ahead, even really early on in the game. You saw that he had almost a 30 farm lead, almost doubling the overall Ashes farm, and plus one fight which I find which God Squad did, allowing them to run away with it, was when that Maokai was able to TP down bot. They were able to get, I believe, 2 kills for themselves. And with that though, it's like immediately the Varus was so far ahead. They I believe almost immediately after they did lane swap too.
Yeah, that teleport was really good. It ends up being only a two for two at the end of the day, 2 kills landing onto C9 World Champ on the Maokai. But it also takes the Volibear off the map, which gives Karthus more time to free farming, and he gets further and further ahead, exactly. But that is all we have for that game. We are going to set you guys up for the next game of the night, our game 2. Moving in, it is going to be Osidos Gaming versus Merciless. Don't go anywhere because we are about to bring it to you hot and ready.
Also be absolutely phenomenal one here. Extremely excited. You know, FSU has been a really strong team. You know, they have been going a bit back and forth with their strengths and weaknesses. On the other hand, Osiris I find has looked very, very strong. It's because it is like they're just like solid team overall, right? But then who do you think really has it?
I mean, I'm looking at the champions that we play. I see an Auron on Osiris. I'm already thinking, that's probably going to be a really good, really strong champion. I really love Auron in the top lane. I think he's just a super strong and great pick. So I'm actually, and also looking at the rest of the jungle, I think that Osidos could put together a really strong team fight composition, which I think is one of the easiest comps to execute. Has a very straightforward game plan. You know, get our power spikes, go fight in the mid game, and get objectives and control. So I'm going to give the slight edge over to Osidos, just looking at what I'm seeing right here.
100%. I could not agree more here. Osiris for me as well will be the game to take, but we don't know. We cannot predict the future. What we can do is throw it over to our wonderful casters, Jay and Diatropa. Take it away, guys.
Thank you so much, gentlemen. Amazing, amazing analytics desk as always. Mitt and Ravishing Ravish, you guys are incredible. But it's Diatropa and myself, Jake, back on the caster desk, ready for our game number 2 of the night. It's Osiris, as we said, versus FSU Black. Diatropa, you just heard them breaking down the two teams. Do you agree with what their analysis was? Osiris should win this game.
I do. I really like Osiris, and I like their potential for ways that they could. What is this? I like the potential for the different ways they could go in draft, but I have been a fan of the champion pools of FSU Black for so long, so fingers crossed for me, because I want to see them play to their potential in draft that their unique champion picks give them.
Yep, and we'll see if those unique champion picks come through. You could already see some unique champion bans as Annie and Graves are taken away against Osiris, especially that Graves, not too surprising in the jungle because he is like a Lee Sin, early ganking, really strong, snowballing champion, but Annie a bit more of a specific counter pick or a specific ban against QQ in that mid lane. Caitlyn, Zac, and Silas, Osiris, take off of the table. A little bit more standard, a little bit more meta, but the true power picks of Aphelios, of the set, are still open and available for either team to grab in the first pick phase.
Yeah, and I really like the Ashe pick for Osiris. I think that is one of the more meta AD carries that they also play. Additionally, I think they could have left the Caitlyn up here if they are going to pick the Ashe, since Ashe does soft counter that. But the things like the Aphelios really aren't really played that much by Annihilator. It's more of things like the Kate, the Misfortune, even the Ezreal falling to like his third most played. And so I think that they might opt into that if anything, but I really like the Diana lock and making a statement early on and locking in the Misfortune. That I think that they're going to look for to establish a solid bot lane that they can rely on, but I'm not sure if this is going to be the Wombo comp or not, since Diana goes really well with those.
Yeah, she's really... So one of the things that's interesting for Diana, that I did not play Diana. I have casted with a fellow Smartest too, who was incredibly good on the Diana champion, and I always picked her as an assassin. Well, she is an assassin in theory, but when she is able to throw down that ultimate and drag everyone together into one centralized location, it is unbelievably powerful in combination with a Orianna Shockwave or a Misfortune Bullet Time, because you basically are bringing everyone into a single spot that the AoE can just tear through them. So you're talking about Wombo combo, already two very strong picks from FSU Black. Orianna was recently buffed, so options there if they want to throw Diana into the jungle, as Hecarim gets picked up for the jungle of Osiris, as well as having that Glacial comp in the bot lane. We've seen it before, we'll see it again, the Ashe and Braum. It's a very stable pick for that bottom lane, very safe pick if you're just looking to farm up and then try to carry in the mid game.
And Braum does have the flexibility to enable his team in a lot of ways later. And looking at the Galio again, I think this is looking to be a little bit of a Wombo combo. So I wonder if Osiris kind of itemizes with their picks, is perhaps the wrong word, but into a composition that is a little bit more pick-oriented or a little bit more roam-oriented to try and drag FSU around. Because right now, they can try and jump straight into team fight, and pick champions that'll go toe-to-toe with FSU, or they can opt out completely and say, we're going to side lane, we're going to pull you around, especially playing the control comp with the Braum and the Ashe, the Hecarim to roam around. I think it's totally a possibility they can pivot.
Yeah, and when you're talking about the Wombo combo, FSU Black, the thing that we've seen so many times before on Excellency and so many times with teams that are trying to put this everyone press R, win the team fight in one go, is that if you have one person or two people that don't have their ultimates available or in the wrong spot at the wrong time, get caught out, somebody's in the fountain, somebody's dead, the Wombo combo is destroyed. It's like a series of dominoes in which one or two of the dominoes is out of line. It just doesn't work. And when you have a fast-paced tempo Hecarim tearing through the jungle, looking to just jump onto and assassinate someone, or you have the Ashe ultimate that all it has to do is lock someone up for a second or two, that's them taking those dominoes and slipping one off to the side, and the wombo combo doesn't work. So FSU Black need to be very, very careful and be stingy when it comes to burning flashes, burning ultimates, burning spells, because if they're not careful, they'll never be able to actually pull off that big combo ultimate.
Yeah, and that's something that we're going to have to keep our eyes on as to whether the execution is really there for them. I'm just looking, I think we have a Sejuani ban here for Osidos, so looking to deny more of that team fight sort of oriented picks. It looks like the Ram is going to be locked in, though I'm not sure whether that's a top or a jungle. In my solo queue games, it's a jungle, but we've seen some spicy stuff already today.
Yep, it's pretty spicy. The Rammus is huge. Nova, I know you're here in the chat. Now's the time to just go nuts, because there is a Rammus in an Excellency Esports League of Legends game. Rammus has not been seen in... I can attest to this, because I've casted almost every single Excellency game in forever, besides our Tuesday Nights, which Finner does an incredibly good job. But Rammus is just never, ever, 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 ever seen. But when you're talking about speed, you're talking about jumping on people, you're talking about engaging, there's no better champion than the Rammus. He can go toe-to-toe with the Hecarim, running around the map. Now you add even more speed on the other side of Osidos with the Kennen and the ultimate from Shen being able to join. This is looking like a very bloody game with people constantly jumping in, looking to add more kills into the enemy team.
Yeah, neither team really having a side lane that I would specifically favor right now. Diana, really strong side lane, but additionally Shen able to split push and join the team with his ultimate at any time. I think it's interesting that we're probably going to be seeing the Kennen mid lane here against the Diana, looking to get perhaps an advantage in that lane and punish her when she does jump in. But that's also a matchup that I'm a little bit inexperienced in. Something that I do want to note, though, is that in last week's games, we did see FSU opting into team fights even when they shouldn't have been winning them. When they were behind, we talked about last game with the important dragon fights that you feel like you have to fight, but you just know that you can't, you have to stall. FSU didn't appear to have that button last week, so if they do get behind, I think that this temptation to run the enemy team could actually be their downfall.
Yes, you don't want to go in too quickly, right? Again, it's all about timing your engages when everyone is in the right position. Guess what? You engage and run forward a little bit further than your Galio is expecting you to run in. He's not in range to ult in afterwards. You die. Guess what? You try to go in, but the Maokai ultimate is a little bit too slow to root up their back line. You die. You try to go in, but the misfortune is assassinated because no one is paying attention to a Kennen TPing behind enemy lines. You die. It's all about timing on those engagements. And the problem I see with FSU Black is exactly what you're saying. They've comped themselves a very, very difficult composition to play around because you have these narrow margins, which if you find success in, are massive success. But outside of that, it's very easy to fall off the cliff and end up in failure.
And we'll have to see kind of how they manage to move their members around the map so that they are all there at important timings. And it'll also depend a lot on what kind of dragons we see early on, whether they are things that they'll want to opt into fights for, or whether these teams feel more like farming. The other thing is that these team fights are going to be really, really slow. Having the Ashe and the Misfortune, unless you're getting the Misfortune ult to wipe the team, neither one of them is going to be putting out a whole lot of damage that's really sustained. Diana probably being the biggest source of that come into mid-late game. And so I am a little bit, I think, looking for these teams to position well in team fights, because it's going to matter so much more how specifically the damage dealers that need to be a little bit more consistent and drawn out over time, especially into this beef of FSU Black, are going to need to work around.
Yep, so can they actually find that workaround within their composition, within their players, and that play style? So looking to Osidos, I do want to note that it is going to be that Kennen in the mid lane, which is not where you typically see a Kennen, usually sitting in that top side. I was kind of curious. No! Are they doing something really wacky here? Ashe is currently locked in for, according to LCS order, mid lane, which means that it is potentially a Kennen Braum together in the bottom lane. I don't feel like Ashe versus Diana will go Ashe's way post 6. Early game definitely has the poke, the range advantage, could shut down Diana, or at least slow down her progression to those later levels. But in the mid to late game, Ashe is just going to get one shot with Rammus coming in. No escape on the Ashe. Rammus will just fly on in, hit the taunt, Diana dives, and the Ashe dies.
Yeah, I'm a little bit dubious of whether this Ashe will actually go mid lane. I think it's more likely, shockingly, that Kuku actually chooses to rotate into the bot side and leave Jamie to try and play the Kennen in mid lane, just because I think Ashe mid would be putting yourself in such a deficit early on.
Yeah, this is a question. Now, we do allow players to lane swap, so it might be that QQ is just a better Ashe player than Jamie, and they are going to kind of swap it up, Kennen into the mid lane, Ashe into the bottom lane. But until we see those players swap around, we're going to assume that this is what they actually want. So let's talk a little bit about the Kennen and Braum into the... Oh, no, okay, there's that swap coming through. Interesting. Not sure why they're all throwing it around, but okay. They do have up until 20 seconds to lock in. So they do not... Maybe it's just that player... No, that still doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, we're all sitting here puzzling. They know exactly what's going on, and they're just
playing with our heads.
Exactly. It's possible that we see the Kennen in topside with perhaps the Shen feeling like he would rather go against the Diana, because I feel like that matchup could go all right for the Shen, who's going to be able to keep from getting blown up in that lane, will be able to neutralize really well, and both of the mid laners will be able to farm out without any threat of dying. That could be the direction that this is going in.
So with Kennen in the top lane and now Shen in the mid lane, it is post 20 seconds, so we shouldn't see at least any player swapping champions post that time, though they can swap lanes. It does seem that it is going to be Kennen, as you said, against that Maokai in the top lane. Shen versus the Diana. Shen does not need, like a Galio, the range to be able to ult to his allies. He can just ult wherever, whenever he wants, as long as his ultimate is available. But I definitely like the Ashe Braum versus Misfortune Galio much better in that bottom lane. The volley to not only be able to poke the Misfortune out, as well as kind of slow down those Galios, but keep in mind, Galio can no longer flash while his taunt is running. So as long as you get an auto attack or a volley from the Ashe, he's going to be a lot slower to try to get within range to hit you with that taunt.
I think it is going to be so much more about the Galio following up rather than engaging for his team. The burden of that is really going to be on the Rammus. And I think that by putting this, going back to it, in the Shen in the mid lane, I think that this is at least OSIDOS saying that they want a little bit more of a stable mid game, or stable early game, so that they can choose those fights coming into the mid game, as opposed to kind of having it be decided by who wins fights earlier game in their respective lanes. I think you're going to have very neutral lanes early on, and we're going to have a lot of time to see how these people set up for objectives.
Yep, where it is that they actually focus on. Let's run through the players and their champions before we get too much further. The side of OSIDOS OGD has Dragnaris with the Ken in the top lane. I'm sorry if we abuse your names. We try very hard, but sometimes we're wrong. Just correct us in the Twitch chat if we got it wrong. Sultan with a Hecarim in the mid lane. QQ on that Shen in the mid lane. Jamie XX with the Ashe as the AD carry, and Winzorbi as the Braum bottom lane supportive role.
And for FSU Black, we're going to have Armin on the Maokai. Swagasm6969 will be gracing us with the Rammus today. Olipop will be playing Diana, and Misfortune and Galio are going to be piloted by Annihilator and Viathan in the bot lane.
All right, so with the OSIDOS, as you're saying, locking in the Ashe and the Braum for the bottom lane, the Shen in the mid lane, but FSU Black coming around with timings, you're talking about the burden of the engagement being on the Rammus and the Galio to follow up. We just saw in the last game the junglers focusing heavily in the bot lane, especially from the blue side, the side of God Squad, focusing that bot lane, trying to get that Varus as fed as possible, so then the rest of the team can come around and support him. Do we see something similar in this game with the Misfortune being the one that everyone is just like pouring resources into the entire game long?
I think we might do, although I would favor Hecarim being able to farm up to his item spikes. Like, trying to fight as Hecarim really early on unless Nihilator is putting himself in what is clearly an unfavorable spot in the lane, I'd rather see Hecarim being able to power farm up and take easy ganks and have still the burden be on the Rammus. So as long as we can see Osidos tracking the Rammus and where he is and putting Hecarim in a spot to counter that if he does come into a lane, I think that Osidos want to be able to sit back and play it so that the Hecarim can farm because of the way that he's forced to itemize.
Well, and especially because you really need that level 6 on the Hecarim to get into that back line where you're not going to have to be dealing with the taunts from the Rammus and the Galio and the roots from the Maokai, right? Your purpose and job is to kill Miss Fortune. That is your sole existence for this game, is find the Miss Fortune, kill the Miss Fortune. And if you're not doing that, you're doing something wrong if you're playing this Hecarim. So farming up hard to hit that level 6 means Osidos are probably going to need to get some really good ward coverage down in the early game to make sure that they keep an eye on where FSU Black is going, especially because, keep in mind, Rammus level 2 is surprisingly powerful. He not only, if he picks his skills correctly, not only will have that, which I'm gonna have a bit of a difficult time because again, it's Rammus and you don't typically memorize Rammus' skills for competitive play. The power roll, the power, it's power something.
Powerball?
Powerball, thank you. The Powerball into the taunt from Rammus is a very effective level 2 gank in top or mid lane, and so it could be that he doesn't even focus necessarily on going into ganking the lanes, but instead actually focuses on trying to catch the Hecarim, using that Diana rotating with him into the enemy team jungle, trying to find the Hecarim and shut him down in the lane.
And I think that speaking of that Hecarim and the speed at which Rammus is going to be getting around the map, later when Hecarim kind of gets up to the same speed as Rammus in terms of being able to have that reliable, constant, because the cooldown on his speed is quite long early game, but once he gets to the point where he can reliably move around the map quite quickly, he's also potentially going to be bringing a Shen with him into wherever he's going, which I think is really kind of scary, especially for and who that is going to be targeted towards. The Kennen can always follow up, but I think that having a Hecarim and a Shen in your backline is never going to feel good for Miss Fortune.
Yeah, that's that terrifying thing. Well, not only do you have the two of them that could be grouping together, but you also have the Kennen with that Lightning Rush who can speed himself to the backline too, and maybe they decide instead to have the Shen. Well, hold on, we got a level 1 invade from Osidos, wanting to start things off spicy. Armin should be able to see that, but he's not paying attention, now starting to run away, but are they going to be able to actually catch him out with those auto attacks? Unfortunately, not enough of those flying through. They just get the flash out, and that will give a little bit more freedom for the Kennen to harass this Maokai in the top lane.
And I think this is really good for them too, letting that Kennen be able to farm, because Maokai isn't going to be able to get on top of him with the flash W, should be safer from the ganks early coming out of Rammus, especially once he takes Lightning Rush and is able to just back away as soon as he sees him. There's no way for Maokai to get on top of him without the flash, and I think that that plays really well into their win conditions.
Yep, just empower this Kennen to split push in the side lane, kind of sort of similar to the Nasus in the last game, but I feel like with that teleport and his ability with the ultimate slicing Maelstrom, he's going to be a little bit more impactful when it comes to the group team fights than you would necessarily have on something like that Nasus. And where FSU Black, they want a wombo combo, well, Osidos, they're happy to wombo combo a little bit too, as long as they are having the Kennen in the middle of everyone and the Hecarim jumping into that back line. So we'll see if they can pull those off.
Honestly, the more I look at these comps, the more scared I get for the Miss Fortune, even though they do have the wombo combo on the side of FSU. I think the Miss Fortune specifically is going to be really scared. Now, the problem there lies in that I'm not sure if they're going to be able to deal with Diana. So if you can't actually take the Miss Fortune out, you've just expended a lot of your cooldowns to not even take out a threat, might still have the ultimate, but Diana is still going to be in your backline, and she does get to the point where she's quite tanky and quite hard to deal with on her own. There's just so much beef from this team that if you can't take somebody out early, I think that you're in a bit of a tough spot.
Right, exactly. The Maokai and the Galio specifically, well, I guess the Maokai really and Rammus. The Galio can probably even build a little bit of off-tank and more utility. Before we get too much deeper into that, as we do get a gank, Rammus actually forced to flash the wall as he was trying to find that level 2 invade. I think he might have even stolen away the blue buff. He did, because Hecarim's got his own blue buff. Okay, so he stole the red buff away. There it is. His blue to the enemy team's red did steal away that buff. I have to say a quick thank you to Omega Mega Esports for that rate of 28. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for coming in, tuning in, joining Excellency Esports as we are in the light testing grounds. This is week 3, going into an invitational week next week, and these teams are already having won one game underneath their belt. They're looking to find a second win through this game. Osiris versus FSU Black. Top lane, the Kennen starting some initiation onto Armin. There's a nice stun coming through, just poking out that Maokai, who's going to have to heal through all that lightning.
Yeah, again, just talking about Omega Esports, I was thinking last game about how Rapid Fire was missing from the side of God Squad. What did end up being replaced very well by the Varus, but interestingly enough, we have them to thank for a really interesting performance from God Squad last week as well.
Yep, and so it's a lot of information to bring into this game, and we'll see what they can actually do. Is Diana engaging on Sultan, just a little bit of poke there, but I was thinking about it earlier, saying, hey, the Kennen, he's all about lightning. Well, what's the lightning usually hitting? The tallest object in the forest, which is a tree, which is the Maokai. Sultan in trouble, though. He's going to get caught out. First blood to the Rammus. I know Nova's going to love that. Swagazm going to feel good, but I really, if I was FSU Black, would rather have it on the Diana.
I think it's gonna feel so good to have the mental edge that gives as well. Like, even though you are giving the kill gold over, just Hecarim not feeling safe to walk around in the river potentially is going to be something that we're gonna have to be considering. Interestingly, QQ is able to take some nice trades against Olipop here, and I think this might be the reason that he was picked into it, not being able to trigger the passive with the auto attack blocks. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, you're fine. And I definitely agree with that. It's kind of a counter pick to this Diana, which, again, Diana's normally speaking, unless they can kill their opponent in lane, they really want to be clearing out the farm and then rotating into the side lanes. Well, it's going to be a little bit difficult with the Shen, who is just going to be that kind of stone in the center of the mid lane, who says, nope, you can't go anywhere. You have to stay here and deal with the farm that I'm going to keep matched in the middle of the lane. It's never going to get to my turret, but you'll probably never get allowed to get to your turret either. But the Shen can jump to these side lanes so much faster than Diana can try to roam. No TP on her, keep that in mind. Wanted to quickly note as well, the misfortune in the bot lane picking up that call says, I know that I'm probably not going to hit my power point until that early to mid game, so let me go ahead and make sure that I farm up really strong in the bot lane, so probably no ganks from the Rammus, because you just won't have any damage on the misfortune.
Yeah, I think that's very much we're not even playing through this lane right now. They're more about enabling the rest of their map, and very calm gameplay from both of these teams. Even though we thought that this was going to be bloody, I think it's going to be way bloodier in the mid game than anything else, given that both of these teams are recognizing they just want to move into that area. The interesting thing to note from me, especially early game, is that the Kennen is at a CS lead in the top side. You were talking about blowing that flash early, giving him a lot of harass bonus. He has a wave pushing into him right now, is already at the 10 CS lead. And so we may see the top side of the map becoming a bigger area of problem for FSU.
And Maokai is not the most magic resistant champion. He used to be all about the magic resistance, and he still has some innately because he is a tankier champion, but it's not going to be necessarily as easy for him to get or to absorb that magical damage from the Kennen. You could even see where he started to build that health and decided to comp against the Kennen directly by picking up that null magic mantle and saying, hey, I know I'm going to be harassed by this, so let me go ahead and clear this up. And you're talking about the calmer early game. Well, a lot of these champions focus heavily around playing around their ultimates, right? The engage from the Hecarim with the ultimate, the engage from the Galio with a follow-up, the jumping in with Diana with her ultimate. So that's why we've had a calmer early game, because we really needed to hit those ultimates. Then you're going to look for those first items, and then you're going to look for blood.
Speaking of looking for blood, we do have the level 6 from both the Shen and the Diana pinged out in the top lane. Looks like Olipop might be looking for Sultan here.
Yep, Sultan's gonna be in a bit of trouble. He's at half health. He does get his blue buff, but it might be traded over to the Diana. The TP coming in, the ultimate from Shen, trying to save his teammate, but it's not enough in this early game. And a great follow by Olipop finds himself blue blood and his own solo kill.
That's some nice macro sense from Olipop, knowing that Hecarim was likely going to be at his blue. He could at least pop in and check it since he had pushed the mid wave, and now has not only a blue buff for himself, but a kill as well, as in the bot lane, there's already action.
Yep, because the Misfortune has a BF sword, so let's have some fun. They taunt up the Braum, but Winsor be going to flash away, and now they've actually locked up Swagazm, of course. the Rammus to flash away as well. You can see that Rammus hit 6, ganks bot, but unfortunately the positioning of the team, not exactly there. Galio does find a taunt, but again, it's onto the Braum. They know his flash is down, but he's still got the stand behind the Ignite ticking away. Will Winzorby fall? He will before the Winds of War even goes out. Olipop coming in as well, just says hi and backs away.
Yeah, and Olipop will have the ultimate on a shorter cooldown, so if he is able to find the roam timings, we'll be able to impact the side lanes more than the Shen as long as Osidos isn't able to dictate to FSU.
It's all about the how fast do these teams play, and is it the Osidos that is making the engagements, or is it FSU that is pulling the trigger on the plays? And you saw in that last one, FSU was the one who had the Rammus coming into the bot lane and Osidos trying to respond, but they didn't respond fast enough and appropriate enough, and they kind of re-engaged when they saw that Rammus getting low health, and that gave Viathan that opportunity to kind of jump back in and follow up with even more damage, take down the Braum through that Ignite after he had burned the Flash, and I think the Ashe had already burned Heal as well, so not much chance to get your support out alive there. It's 3-0 for FSU Black, but only 1,000 gold lead, so not that big of a lead as you might think against 3-0.
Yeah, we do have the potential to extend it though, as Swagasm did burn his flash in the bot lane. He got 2 in response, and Rammus being able to have the consistent gank pressure even without the flash, just using his Q to get on top of people, does have the potential to return to that bot lane as long as they're able to control the vision with the Diana being able to push in the mid lane. I think that we could see perhaps this gold lead extend if they position properly.
And maybe they can do that. Rammus, I don't know that he wants to jump right now into the bottom lane, especially with the wave kind of pushing forward, Misfortune being down there alone. You can see the Galio even kind of roaming up just to be around in case a fight broke out at the Rift Herald. He could leap on in and make sure to come to his allies' aid. So I love that kind of forward thinking from FSU Black, saying, hey, we're prepared in case the enemy tries to make this sort of a play, and we can respond. So really good positioning by them in that way. Now they can back away, reset. The cull from Misfortune almost completed.
And yeah, once we see the cull completed, I'm excited to see what kind of fights start to break out around the map, because you will have hit a sort of mini power spike, especially I believe that she's building towards some crit, and so once she gets that first crit item under her belt, seeing how we choose to position, we did see the Rift Herald just go over with no contest to FSU, and so that could continue if Osidos keep feeling like they're just a little bit behind the play, and we could let this Wombo comp just move up and snowball. Right now, it looks like Hecarim might be looking for a gank, though Rammus is in position to counter.
Yep, so both junglers focusing on the bottom lane, checking spells. The Ashe still has Flash and Heal down, but when Zorbi has Ignite, and that might be what they're trying to engage there with that Ashe ultimate. Galio's in. He's got a 3-man taunt straight into the bullet time for the Misfortune. Rammus rolling on forward. The Ashe is going to be hit with the Shen ultimate coming in, trying to keep her alive. It's going to be way too late. Braum has already fallen. Armin in here as well with the TP. Everyone dropping into the bottom lane. Galio's going to be taking turret shots. Goes golden to survive with a stopwatch as well. But now, unfortunately, Annihilator taking that turret shot means if FSU Black have to back away, but their timing was nice. They could rotate to Dragon, but they're still up against all 5 members of Osidos. Braum and Ashe coming out of the base could try to re-engage the fight because the Galio and Misfortune both sitting at half health.
But Ashe Arrow already having been used as well, I think that's so many resources committed by Osidos to find really nothing onto FSU. Really nice patience from Annihilator to be able to get away, use the ultimate there to respond with so much damage onto the bot lane, denies them that entire play, and even gets themselves the lead plus the dragon, and I really like that. From FSU, really nice controlled play is going to be able to starve out their opponents from the plays that they need to make happen.
Yeah, that was absolutely huge from Viathan. An incredibly good job to jump in with the Justice Punch, taunt up all 3 members, completely disengage Annihilator. And from that point on, Osidos was on the back foot, and they had to start to kind of try to flee the fight. They attempt to re-engage after Shen comes in, mostly to save the Shen, not so much because they thought that they had the advantage. And then, as they're still trying to back away, then the Kennen shows up. He tries to re-engage, and it just continues to go downhill. Fortunately, unfortunately, only really lost the Ashe. No one else really died. Maybe the Braum died and got back up super early. As Olipop, though, going to try to find the enemy team jungler once again. Drops that ultimate, taking him out. Rammus stealing away the kill, as Swagasm apparently wants to be the carry in this game.
Yeah, Sultan is just not having a good time at all in this game. I think it's been so much of Olipop as well, just roaming around with his jungler there and enabling him with his damage. But we can see the Hecarim itemizing into the Cinderhulk, recognizing that he's not going to be able to do that much for his team in the early game, not building any Trinity Force components, and instead is just already trying to be tanky and getting blown up by the mid and top. And we talked about this, or sorry, the mid or jungle. We talked about this a little bit last game, where just having a player that is so far behind that they're almost irrelevant is super useful. And so if they can continue to push this onto the Hecarim, I think that this could be the weak point that FSU can exploit.
Well, because the Kennen is that guarantee to jump onto the Ashe. Fight in the mid lane, Olipop, a little bit of trouble, forced to use the flash to try to get the Hecarim to charge her towards the turret. She is going to be feared away from it, so will go down as the fight in the top lane. Going to continue, scuffle there, Armin rooting up the Kennen. Might have enough damage as a tree to drop those roots. He goes on in underneath the turret, misses the last auto. The sapling going to be tossed, but I don't think it'll chase the Kennen down. Just an auto attack away from winning the 1v1.
Yeah, just barely gets away there, does the Kennen, and I think that was going to feel really good for the Maokai, really paying off in terms of the magic resist that he's been forced to itemize into. Hasn't had to be involved in these team fights yet, and so by the time that he should have the ability to have built up that armor and be a really relevant force into especially the Ashe, who's already feeling like she's behind, and the Shen, who's really not going to be dealing any damage.
Yep, because he's all about tank. You can see he's even prioritized building against magic resist. Well, who's that for? The Diana. But who are they not building against? The Miss Fortune, who now has been able to finish off that call. She's recalling after this next wave, so should be able to complete her first major item. Still also has that Warhammer, Caulfield's Warhammer, and so can just continue to stack more damage as that AD carry and be the one that FSU Black play around, because that Diana is mostly going to be focusing on finding and assassinating the Ashe and or Hecarim.
Yeah, might be looking for the Hecarim now. Is invading his jungle, but Hecarim should be spotted here on his Raptors. I was looking for the Rammus to try and powerball in, but Hecarim, recognizing that he can't even take that fight against the Diana, pushed away from his own jungle, and I think that's going to be where it starts to, or continues, I guess, to feel bad for him, not being able to find his own way back into the game. And it's interesting that you noted the Shen itemizing against the Diana as well, itemizing into two AP laners here, where Shen is just trying to neutralize, Maokai trying to neutralize, but with the Miss Fortune ult being able to be spread out across so many people, it's definitely FSU that is coming out on top of that trade.
And we'll see if they can get Osiris to group for that big Miss Fortune ultimate. So far, there's only been minor scuffles except for that big bottom lane fight, and it wasn't around a neutral objective. But with 46 seconds on the Wind Drake, the third Drake of the game coming up, you can see that Osiris already has put down a number of control wards in the bottom side area, trying to contain and control Vision. Scuttle Crab going to disappear, so FSU Black know that that is a dark spot on the map for them. They're going to need to rotate to, but they're going to focus the second Rift Herald. They didn't get much with the first one, didn't even get a charge, I think, onto that top lane turret. We'll see if they can find more success with the second one.
And looking at the objectives across the map, like they just picked up the Rift Herald, looks like we're going to see a Shen ult, though.
Yep, and now there's three members jumping all in. Everyone coming to party. Swagasm trying to run away, but Powerball has already been used. Flash coming down as well. Powerball is back up in time for him to go slipping away. Armin flashing towards that top lane turret. He's fairly tanky. Can he get within range of the minions? You can also, whoa, I didn't even catch the fact that Rammus is being taken down by the Ashe and Braum, who are also rotating up from bottom lane. They're chasing in. Armin has tanked for 3 days straight, but finally he goes down. 2 kills to Osiris and some crucial pickups.
It's so tanky are the Maokai and the Rammus that they're able to take up so much time on the top side. We already see that FSU is able to position themselves around Drake. They aren't going to be able to take it because of the 3v5 position they're put in, but I'm not sure if they can trade for this mid lane tower either.
Yeah, it's going to be a difficult one. We do have Miss Fortune coming in, trying to clear the wave, and Diana going to go ahead and pull that Hecarim back, not only underneath the turret, but into Miss Fortune bullet time as well. So it's 1 kill trade back to FSU Black. They probably will lose a lot of health in the top lane turret, but I don't think Kennan's going to stick around to actually finish it off. So not much in the neutral objective way that Osiris were able to pick up, because keep in mind, the Rammus has Herald, that second Rift Herald, still sitting in his inventory, and they're going to grab themselves the Wind Drake as well, uncontested. So even though FSU Black lost their 2 tanks, they really didn't lose all that much in terms of pressure and objectives.
Yeah, and they bought themselves so much time that, like with the Maokai tanking up so much of, I think, 5 members that he was absorbing damage from at one point, bought the Rammus time to respawn, and Diana Miss Fortune with a really nice play to take the Hecarim off the table means that with Rammus back up, they can take the Dragon uncontested. It's not a 50-50 anymore, so Hecarim really being the key pick there.
And they pick up first turret in that bottom side, so the gold has gone from a little bit over 1,000 to suddenly over 4,000 gold the way of FSU Black. And this is what we were kind of hoping to see after a couple of weeks of them having hit or miss games in which things seemed a little bit chaotic. They didn't always seem to be on the same page. Well, they definitely feel like they're a lot more coordinated, have a much more solid game plan, and they're playing around that game plan, which is bring everyone in for a big fight and let the carries of Annihilator and Olipop actually win the game for us.
Yeah, I think Olipop has been such a big part of that, being able to start fights on his own with the Diana around the map. And again, I want to bring attention to his macro sense. Just knowing where the Hecarim is has been able to shut him down really well, but also has enabled himself to roam around the map.
And because the Diana keeps going around the map, what it's forcing is Shen to kind of be joining his team on these side lanes, which means now you can see he's starting to lose out on some of the farm. The Diana with a Rod of Ages, it's not the most AP heavy first item, but it means she's going to be so much harder to kill in this mid game because she's going to have that stacking of the health and of the mana, so she can spam out her spells, get in and get out of fights alive, and it's going to be a lot more difficult for Osiris to prioritize who they want to actually pick besides this Miss Fortune, because you have to get through the Rammus taunt, the Galio taunt, the Maokai roots, and this now slightly tanky, bruiserish Diana to then finally find them some Miss Fortune at the very back of the fight.
Yeah, it's going to be so hard if they can't keep her out of the backline to actually make that trade happen onto Annihilator, who has been positioning really well. I also wanted to, on a personal note, bring up the idea that the Wind Drake this game, normally considered a really boring Drake, but I'm really excited to see how this impacts either the Rammus or the Hecarim, whoever ends up picking up more of them, because of the movement speed buffs. We're seeing these champions be able to rotate so much faster, and I think that's going to bring a lot more pop into the game.
Oh, yes. You can switch from bottom, top, everywhere you want to go with the wind at your heels, or the wind at your Powerball if you're the Rammus. Quick thank you over to Upsurge Esports with the raid. Thank you so much for dropping in. Welcome, everyone, to Excellence Esports. We are in week 3 of our 4 weeks of light testing grounds. Next week is the Invitational with a prize pool for the teams who have been playing these last 3 weeks and earning points. And we got a fight started off. Unfortunately, the Diana flashes in a straight line. Great Unbreakable from the Braum, keeping his team alive. They're trying to focus on to Swagasm, but this man is just not dropping. Ash Jamie poking around from the side. The Galio finds a 2-man taunt on the Hecarim as well. Force the flash out of the Ash, but the Justice Punch will knock up the taunt coming through for the Rammus as well. Swagasm gets the kill, and now under the turret, Army goes, picking up the Kennen as well. He's trading off those turret shots so they can try to put a little more pressure on the Shen, but really they don't care about him. It's the turret that they want after picking up 3 kills for just 1.
Yeah, that was a really interestingly played team fight from both sides. I think that, wow, okay, there goes Shen. I thought that it was really good capitalization from Osidos to try and make that happen onto Olipop, who got caught out by the Ash Arrow. But unfortunately, just being able to live for long enough with the shield, plus the pulling in everybody to the Miss Fortune ult, got enough damage to push a fight that caught them on the back foot into an advantage for FSU.
Yeah, and it's one of those things that, again, if you cannot get onto Annihilator, you are going to lose the fight. Sure, you get yourselves Olipop, that's fine. But again, it is a 9-stack Rod of Ages for this Diana, right? She's not your typical AP bursting Diana. She's got a bit more health than that. It's going to take you more time to take her down. And on top of that, she's picking up that golden stopwatch, which is going to spend even more time delaying this fight out, letting the beefy front line protect this Miss Fortune so that Annihilator can deal the damage. I want to look at the stats post-game because I feel like everything is going to be 90% Miss Fortune damage, 10% everyone else, because at this point, Annihilator is the one that the side of FSU Black are leaning on to win the game for them. But that does also mean if OSIDOS find the miracle movement with the Windrake to slip around the side and take Miss Fortune out, they might stand a chance at winning the fight.
Yeah, and I also want to bring attention to the fact that even though we saw the Miss Fortune be kind of ignored in the early game, picked up the Cull and just kind of had a laid-back laning phase, has found herself with the most farm in the game by a reasonable margin over especially the Ashe, who she's playing into. And that is not negligible, especially when she's able to find these ultimates.
Yep, that gold is just going to continue to stack up. If you actually just look straight at the gold between the two of the ADCs, it's a 2,200 gold for Miss Fortune. That is edging on an entire item completed over this Ashe. It's really, really massive. And the Ashe is not prioritizing a specifically team fight damage focus. It's a Blade of the Ruined King to try to cut through some of these tanks. So she knows that she's going to have to be hitting the front line of FSU Black and is trying to build towards that, but it does delay a lot of actual damage trying to actually cut through the tankiness from that front line of FSU.
Ashe Arrow finds Galio, but it looks like that they're not going to try and actually engage that, not knowing where FSU is, as their vision has been cleared out of River, and it looks like FSU is trying to set up for what could be a Baron. And I'm not sure if, as OSIDOS, you feel comfortable contesting them if they do disappear into that Fog of War.
Yep, Fog of War is a really big deal for both of these teams at this point because FSU Black, again, need to be able to position their key members for those wombo combo plays where they have all of their ultimates available and they're looking for a big team fight or a really big pick. And you need to have vision on where the rest of the enemy team is to know that you're safe to go in. Well, same thing with OSIDOS. They cannot fight a 5v5. They have to go for picks. They have to look to section someone off, catch them out where they're not in position. And unfortunately, OSIDOS just have no vision in their own jungle, which means FSU Black get the Baron for free, and that should just escalate them even further. I don't expect this game to go past 30 minutes with the rate that FSU Black are continuing to snowball it.
No, not at all. And I mean, if you look at the compositions on both sides, but especially now with the Baron exacerbated on the side of OSIDOS, they have very little wave clear into this Baron, which was the problem last game with the Morgana pool no longer being able to clear out minions. Here, you don't even have that. It's just trying to be Kennen and Ashe auto attacks that are not going to be able to take down Baroned up minions.
Yep, it's going to be really difficult to cut through those tanky minions, which is going to mean you have to sacrifice people to sit in those side lanes and clear them up. Depending on... Actually, I'm kind of curious now. FSU Black with Baron, normally speaking, you want to prioritize using it in all lanes, so you get the max efficiency use out of it. You can power up those cannon minions to poke away onto inhibitor turrets, which they really only have one exterior turret left in that bottom lane, which I'm sure they're going to go to and try to clear up. But they could also try to just group as 5 and shove down one lane. They're so far ahead that they really don't necessarily need to kind of split the map up. They can look to just win straight through mid or straight through top.
Yeah, and being able to use the tankiness of the Maokai and the Rammus to zone people off of those lanes might be where it's most useful. It looks like right now Diana's going to be trying to be splitting in the top side and clearing out the waves. She let Kennen clear that last wave, and so it looks like they're going to try and crash top and bot at the same time to force a split from OSIDOS.
Yep. So, are they going to... Now that they kind of split up and decorated the top, mid, and bottom lane, they're kind of letting Armin just use these cannon minions to poke away on that bottom side turret. I guess it's just a slow siege from them, but it's burning a lot of time. OSIDOS is doing a pretty decent job of really letting FSU Black come to them. And while I'm not perfect on this, if I click really quickly, I should be able to... No, I can't. Let's forget that the spectator delay is doesn't show it. But I feel like the Baron buff is already half to maybe even 3/4 gone, and FSU Black have only found themselves that one exterior turret in the bottom lane. They didn't even need the Baron buff to get.
Yeah, I mean, it does help that you're able to put the Maokai into the side lane against the Shen, where now that that goes even, there's not really anything that he can do. But you see that Diana's already pushing onto the top inhibitor turret, and I wonder if they're going to try and force that issue, or at least the mid one, because I would like to see them break the base on first Baron. I think it's a little bit of a misplay if they don't, even if it does still not end up losing them this game.
Yep, they still have Maokai sitting in the bottom lane. Ashe being forced to hang down there to try to clear up those minions. They're sending 3 tanky members into the mid lane with that Hecarim and just trying to focus and take away the attention from those cannon minions from these turrets. But unfortunately, they're going to lose the top and bottom side turret. So Baron sticking around long enough for FSU Black to pick up all these turrets to make it a small engagement, but it's only on to QQ, the Shen, who's fairly tanky at this point, so not going to be too concerned. He finds a taunt. There it is onto Misfortune. Everyone's trying to dive, but the flash from Annihilator is still up, but that's going to be the ultimate. Everyone's still diving for her, going in as well. The Galio ultimate keeping her alive, and everyone from the side of Osiris caught themselves between 2 hard rocks of the Rammus and the Maokai, and they are bounced back and forth. Annihilator finishing them off with Olipop, the ace for FSU Black, and they win game number 2. We said it would be pre-30 minutes, and they will make it pre-29 minutes even faster.
A clean ace from the side of FSU, just nothing that Osiris could do there. Tried to make a last-minute engage, seeing their base was falling apart, and that's going to be a game.
Yep, beautifully done. Osiris, he had some glimmering moments of hope and a few good plays, but unfortunately after that one fight in the bottom lane, especially when the members of FSU Black were just able to collapse faster and more efficiently, could never quite catch up from there.
Yeah, and looking at the post-damage graphs, I think we see exactly what you're talking about, a lot of damage dealt from that Misfortune.
Anything else you want to note from the side of Osiris or FSU Black when it comes to the overall story of the game?
I think that this game, it was very much Olipop's game. As much as we talked about Annihilator being really confident on the Misfortune and being able to play this kind of back style, I think that Olipop was able to enable his team so much that Annihilator could take that back seat and just be fed resources. And all of the advantages that his team found, he was able to close out on once he started hitting those power spikes.
Yep, so with that, Osiris are going to fall down. FSU Black are going to take the victory. Good on them to be able to move on into finals. We'll see if FSU Black have what it takes to go 3-0 tonight. We've been looking and excited to see this team continue to grow and continue to be a dominant team in the light testing grounds, and now seems like a really good opportunity with some very interesting champions, but pouring all the resources onto Annihilator 2-0 and 9. Definitely working out for them this game. We'll see if they can do that next game. We're going to take a quick intermission break. Sorry for the graphical error. I've figured out now what it was that caused it, so it won't happen again. Thank you all for your patience. We'll be right back with game number